Hey, welcome back to the Spector Creative channel. I'm your host, Scott Toy Guru Neitlich, and like you, I am a big action figure fan, and I'm also a video game fan, which is why you see this video game action figure slowly scrolling across your screen. Because today, I'm making a video about video game action figures and why they struggle at retail. And you might be saying, well, wait a minute, they don't struggle at retail. I see them all the time. Well, yes, but they're not exactly the powerhouse that something like Star Wars or Marvel or Transformers, where they're constantly at retail. They tend to come and go. They do have a very strong nostalgic draw, but for the most part, getting them to stick at retail is an eternal struggle.
Now I give you the eternal struggle.
Relax, fit my Aunt Fanny.
Now, obviously, there are retailers like GameStop that specializes in selling video games, and it makes total sense that they also do a very good business selling video game-related merchandise, which includes everything from plush to action figures to Funko Pops. And obviously, there are action figures that do live in the main retail aisle and are aimed at kids. And they do sell, but they're not, again, just these phenomenons that have essentially owned a space at retail that's referred to in the industry as evergreen. What that means is, like, take a brand like Transformers, for example, that came out in the mid-'80s in the US. Yes, they came out in Japan earlier, but 1986, United States, Transformers hit, and they are huge with kids and toy fans of all ages. They're really 3D puzzles, but that's a video game, or rather a YouTube video for another time. And they're still here today, and you can buy action figures based on the 1986 version of them right there in the toy aisle. They've managed to hold on to that real estate for decades. There are many types of video game figures. There are video game figures where a action figure is just deco painted to look like they're from a video game by giving them kind of that sort of 8-bit, 16-bit look. There's video game figures that are not action figures. And there's video game figures that are done as high-end statues or even high-end articulated figures that could go up to the hundreds of dollars. For the most part, for the adult collector especially, video game action figures are all about nostalgia. They're about helping us remember what it was like being a kid when we didn't have a mortgage, when we didn't have a job, responsibilities. We basically maybe had to get our homework done, but otherwise it was all about how soon can I get out there and play. It's why things like the Star Wars Retro Collection appeal to us so much, because it captures that feeling of being a kid. Whether it's the packaging, or the feel of the plastic, or the aesthetic of the action figure, the way it's decoed, the way it's sculpted, makes us feel like a kid again. And we all want to have that feeling, because as a kid, for the most part, hopefully we all had happy childhoods, or at least happy memories or moments in their childhood, and being able to capture that as an adult is a very relaxing feeling, and it makes us forget about those responsibilities. But what about video game action figures that are not about necessarily nostalgia, but are really about play, the traditional action figure play, what in the industry is called doink play. That's actually what they call it. Like when you're taking two figures and smashing them together, and one is, knocking the other one over. It's referred to as doink play. What can I say? That's just what they call it, versus wheels play, or hair play, or slime play. Well, again, for the adult collector, action figures really are about trophying, as in the verb to trophy, because you're going to take your figure, no matter what brand it is, and you're going to put it on your shelf. You're not going to play with it. Even these Contra figures that are action figures are really not finding their way into the hands of kids. Nostalgia, putting on your shelf, no different from something like Marvel Legends, where you're putting it on your shelf and even dividing it by teams. So you might have a shelf of Nintendo and a shelf of Sega, and et cetera, etc. That's trophying. But action figures that are meant for kids to play with them is different. Now, we should probably also talk about something like Amiibo, because that tends to come up a lot when people look for a successful action figure line at retail. But the thing is, Amiibo is not an action figure line. These are statues. They're not articulated. And they were sold in the action figure category in order to get that sales number. It was totally a sales strategy. All right, so before we get to kids, we should also talk about things like adult action figures, like Batman characters from a specific Batman video game, or like I previously showed with the Ninja Turtle figures that are painted to look like they are part of a video game. So while at first glance you would say, oh, well, this is a very successful way of doing video game action figures. You do Batman or Spider-Man or Ninja Turtles in their video game look, and now you've got kids playing with Batman. Well, yes, but again, the brand tends to overtake the aesthetic in this case. So yes, these are Batman figures based on a video game, but they really are just variants of Batman for a Batman collector, or variants of a Ninja Turtle. It's just a different way of painting a Ninja Turtle for someone who collects lots of Ninja Turtle figures. You're not really playing out the video game, if you will. You're just collecting a character that in this case happens to be decoed or sculpted to look like the video game version versus the movie or comic book version. Because there are people who like to collect by brand, and they will buy any Batman figure, for example. And getting a version of Batman from a video game in a different look is more trophying. You're just going to take that figure and put it on your shelf and feel a sense of accomplishment and a sense of, I have them all. I've collected everything, and that's why we collect. All right, so now let's get to kids. So obviously, toys sold in the retail aisle are mainly aimed at children. They need to be. Gift givers and children make up 80% of the sales in the main retail aisles in big box stores. So if you see a video game figure hanging in this aisle, it's being aimed at a child. And we all know children like action figures because of the nutrients they can suck out of the plastic, which helps them grow. Okay, just kidding. Boys and girls like action figures because of the play value. And that being is they can see action figures as what's called an avatar for the imagination. They put themselves in the place of the toy, and when the toy is having an adventure, it's like they're having an adventure. And if they want to have superpowers, if they want to fight dragons, if they want to live in a sewer, they can do this through action figure play. It also lets them work out aggression, but they can also see themselves as the hero. And that's what toys do, both action figures and dress-up toys as well, or role-play toys, if you will. Things like masks, capes, gloves, blasters, that kind of thing. And that's why they're so successful with kids. Because as a child, you feel like you want to be in control, but you're not, because you are a child and you have a parent who is parenting you and doing that so in their best interest, but it might mean telling them they have to eat something that they don't want to eat, or go to bed when they don't want to go to bed, but it's in the child's best interest because parents are grown up and responsible. Children would eat whatever they want. The world to a child is a very, very big, scary place. And toys are one way children can have control over that world by playing through toys. Now with video games, it's different. Because with a video game, it's a passive experience. And children who play video games, different from the way adults play, well, they're still playing them as avatars for the imagination, but they have full control of the character. If they want Mario to jump, they can just press a button and make him jump. They have 100% control over Mario. It's one of the reasons children love video games so much, is that sense of control that they can live out immediately. It's not about nostalgia, and it's not about trophying. For children, a video game character, you already have control through the video game, so they don't need to buy an action figure to feel a sense of control. They can do that through the video game play. That's their emotional connection. They've already achieved a sense of control in the actual video game, and it's more control than you'll ever get on the toy shelf, because again, you just press a button and your character will jump or slash or kick or whatever. With an action figure, you have to do it manually. So you get more of a thrill of control through the video game. Obviously, adult collectors, no matter what the brand, will continue to collect. We buy toys for a very different reason. We're not acting out avatars for the imagination to control the world. We're doing it to feel a sense of self-worth. And it's why video game figures are mostly sold in the collector aisle behind electronics. When they're sold in the retail aisle to kids, they tend not to do well because kids get that sense of control they need from toys through the actual video game. They don't need the action figure to do that the way they do for other things like movies, comics, and TV shows, where they can't control them. So, as long as kids are playing video games and controlling those characters, that thrill, that need to control, is taken care of. And that is why action figures based on video games have a difficult time selling to kids. Not collectors, obviously. I hope this video was informative. Any other thoughts on this, leave it in the comments below. I always comment back and I love to hear from people. Do me a favor and share this video too. It helps the channel a ton. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.